The famous quote, "Oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive," by Sir Walter Scott, is one of the truest truths ever spoken. We all do it at some point in our lives. We lie to get out of trouble. We lie to spare someone's feelings. We lie to get special perks or advantages. And some of us even lie just to make other people jealous. But once that initial lie is laid out, it can be a very slippery slope to navigate. Sometimes your initial lie requires you to lie to more people around you to maintain it. Other times, you'll have to lie again to maintain the first lie, and then again to maintain the one after that. So, when do you say enough is enough? When do you come clean? Is it when you've lied to everyone around you? Or when the lies become so many that even you can't keep them straight? Or maybe you just don't come clean, and instead you find a way around it all, like killing those you've lied to. That certainly seemed like an option for our story's protagonist, who, after having lied to her parents for years, decided to have them murdered once they discovered her lies. Let's try to untangle Jennifer Pan's web of lies together. Are you ready? Then take my hand, hold it tight, and let's walk into the darkness together. Jennifer Pan was born on June 17, 1986 in Toronto, Canada to Vietnamese immigrant parents. Her father, Huy Han Pan, worked as a tool and die maker, and her mother, Bic Ha Pan, worked at an automobile parts manufacturer. Now, like most refugee immigrants, Han and Bic pretty much arrived to the new country which they planned to call home with nothing but the shirts on their backs. However, they were both pretty strong, determined, and hardworking individuals, and they soon had not just stabilized themselves, but you could say they were pretty well off, even managing to purchase a house in an upscale neighborhood. As Jennifer and her 3-year younger brother Felix grew up, their parents tried to instill the same strength, determination, and hardworking qualities in them. They placed their children in extracurricular activities. For example, they enrolled Jennifer in figure skating and piano lessons at the tender age of 4, and she happened to excel in both. They also enrolled her in swimming lessons, and she also learned wushu, which is a type of martial arts. Before long, and with her parents' guidance of course, Jennifer had her eyes set on being a figure skating Olympian. In fact, she was hoping to try to enter into the 2010 Winter Olympics. However, Jennifer suffered an injury and tore a knee ligament, putting an end to her Olympic dreams. Now, up to now in this story, it may seem like this is just another tale about a typical family who were supportive parents and tried their best to provide their children with everything they never had. But I do need to note that Han is what is called a tiger parent. Now, if you're not familiar with the term, a tiger parent is someone who raises their children in an extremely strict, overprotective, and somewhat overbearing way, usually focusing on academic or career-related success. They push their children to be hardworking and laser-focused on their goals, and sacrificing other parts of their life, such as their social life, fun interactions like sleepovers or parties, and enjoyable hobbies. Now, Bic was a bit more lenient, but she did enforce, reluctantly, everything that Han wanted, so Jennifer would spend all day at school and then go straight to her extracurricular activities. It was normal for her to get home at around 10 p.m. at night, spend about 2 hours doing her homework, and go to bed at midnight so that she could wake up the next morning and just start all over again. And you'd think that after her accident, she'd have had a break with one less thing on her plate, but that wasn't the case at all. Instead, skating was quickly substituted with new activities, such as learning to play the flute. Throughout grade school and junior high, Jennifer was a straight A student, excelling in every subject. So much so that she and her parents set their expectations on Jennifer being the valedictorian of her 8th grade graduation. For whatever reason, when the time came for the valedictorian to be chosen, the school went with a different student and Jennifer was left completely crushed. What was the point of going through so much sacrifice and hard work when every time you came so close to your goals, everything went wrong and they were taken from you? Jennifer never fully recovered from her disappointment, and although she wasn't exactly doing badly throughout school, her grades were never the same, slipping from straight A's down to B's and B minuses. This, however, wasn't what was expected of her, and in order to try and keep her parents happy, Jennifer faked her grades using old report cards, a photocopier, a pair of scissors, and some glue. And the girl must have had serious skills, because although there is no chance in hell that it would have worked for me, it did, however, work for her, like a charm. Her parents were completely satisfied and happy, believing that Jennifer remained a straight A student. Jennifer wasn't allowed to date anyone during high school because her parents thought that it would end up distracting her from what was really important, which was her academic future. However, Jennifer did meet a boy named Daniel Wong during band practice at the Mary Ward Catholic Secondary School, where she played the flute in the school's band. Daniel was goofy, always smiling and laughing, and he played the trumpet. So when Jennifer met him, they became quick friends. However, in 2003, when the band went to Europe to play, Jennifer began to suffer an asthma attack during a performance because of the large amount of people who were smoking in the crowd. Jennifer began panicking and was led outside to where the school buses were parked. Daniel came outside to check on her, and seeing how freaked out and out of breath she was, he decided to stay with her, talking to her and coaching her breathing, and trying to calm her down until her attack passed. From that moment on, Jennifer began to see Daniel in a whole new way. She told everyone that he had saved her life, and pretty soon they were an item. Of course, Jennifer kept this hidden from her parents, who would undoubtedly force her to end their relationship if they had known. I'm not sure if Jennifer knew that Daniel had a bit of a criminal record and had been caught with half a pound of weed in his car, therefore being charged with trafficking. But if she did, it didn't seem to affect her much despite her strict upbringing. So, the lies about grades and relationship status continued throughout high school, and during her 12th year, Jennifer actually received an early acceptance into Ryerson University. Her parents were thrilled. All their encouragement and hard work was finally starting to show results. Han had wanted Jennifer to take pharmacology, so that became the new plan. She would take 2 years at Ryerson and then transfer to the University of Toronto and finish her education there, because it was simply a more prestigious school. Unfortunately, Jennifer ended up failing her final calculus test of the year, and Ryerson ended up revoking her early admission into their university. Now, any normal person would figure that their charade is over and it's time to come clean. But Jennifer figured that if she could fake her report card so well through high school, why not college? So for the next 2 years, she began to lie to her parents about attending Ryerson. She bought used textbooks and would take the bus downtown daily to the library, where she would look through books on pharmacology and fill notebook after notebook with notes that she thought would look like something she had taken in her class. She also took jobs teaching the piano and at a restaurant in order to pay for the things she needed to maintain her lies. She created false paperwork so she could tell her parents that she had gotten approved for a $3,000 student loan and had multiple scholarships, and that's how she had been getting through university without having to pay tuition. And when her father decided to gift her a laptop as a college gift, she happily accepted it. Because her lie grew, the group of people she had to lie to in order to keep it up grew as well. She now had to include friends and acquaintances who could ruin her lies if they found out and told her parents, or accidentally let the truth slip in front of them. She also requested permission to stay at a friend's house during the week in order to be closer to campus. This was also a lie, and instead of staying near the campus, she spent the week with Daniel. And also lied to his parents, claiming that her mother and father knew of the relationship and approved of it. But whenever Daniel's parents tried to make plans like a dinner to finally meet her parents, Jennifer would brush it off quickly, giving excuses as to why they wouldn't be able to attend. But, of course, another time would be great. As the time for her to transfer to the University of Toronto approached, Han began to ask his daughter when she had planned to apply. Jennifer lied once again and told him that she already had and had been approved. And, of course, 2 years later, when it would have been time for her to graduate, she and Daniel paid someone to fake a straight A transcript for her, and she lied to her parents about graduation, telling them that due to overcrowding, they had given each student graduating one single ticket for admittance into the graduation ceremony. But she didn't want to make either of them feel bad by having to choose who was going and who was going to miss it. So she went ahead and gave her ticket to another student. Now, I'm not sure why she did this next part. Maybe to cover something else up? Or maybe because she became a compulsive liar at this point. But after Jennifer had supposedly transferred to the University of Toronto and close to the time of graduation, Jennifer told her parents that she had gotten a volunteer job at a laboratory of a children's hospital called Sick Kids. At first, they fully believed this, just as they had believed all the other lies. But Han found it strange that Jennifer never received a uniform or a key card from her volunteer job, and he began to get suspicious. He decided to offer Jennifer a ride to work. When Jennifer realized that she wasn't going to be able to turn him down or shake him, she agreed, but as soon as Han pulled up to the hospital, she jumped out of the car and ran inside. Han quickly told Bick, who had come with them, to follow her, but Jennifer was just too quick. She managed to lose her mother and hid in the emergency room for a couple of hours until she was sure that her parents had left. As soon as Han and Bick got home, Han picked up the phone and called Topaz, the friend who Jennifer was supposedly staying with near the campus during the week. Topaz confirmed that Jennifer had never stayed over at her house. When Jennifer came home that night, she found an enraged father who wanted nothing to do with her. After extracting a full confession from her about the report cards, failing high school, lying about the universities, the scholarships, the student loans, the sleepovers, and even her relationship status, Han kicked her out of the house and told Jennifer to never come back. Her mother, being a bit more understanding of Jennifer's feelings, tried to calm her husband down by talking to him and trying to find medium ground. Eventually, she managed to convince him to let Jennifer stay, as long as Jennifer agreed to follow a very strict set of rules that would now be applied on top of the old ones. Jennifer would have to immediately break up with Daniel, and would have to leave her job at the restaurant that she was working at, which happened to be the same one where Daniel was a manager. She was allowed to keep her piano teaching job, but she would have to go, work, and then come straight home. She would also have to go 2 weeks without her cell phone and laptop, and after that, she would have to be able to use it only while under supervision. Jennifer readily agreed to all of it and handed her father her laptop and phone, which he hid from her. She quit her job at the restaurant and told her parents that her relationship with Daniel had ended. That part was not true, however. She continued her relationship with him, but the relationship started to become strained. Jennifer could no longer spend the night at his place or even talk to him on the phone. The times they did see each other, it was always in secret, hiding and rushed. Daniel eventually grew tired of sneaking around and broke up with Jennifer. Jennifer was devastated. When she found out that he had begun to date another girl, she decided that she wanted Daniel back at any cost. And so she resorted once again to lying. She told Daniel that while alone in her house, a man had knocked on her door and showed her a police badge, then asked to come inside. When she had allowed him to, several other men had rushed in behind him and they had all gang raped her. She also claimed that a few days later she had received a bullet in the mail, and she said she knew that both of these had been orchestrated by his current girlfriend. I'm not sure how Daniel took that or what he did. I couldn't find that information anywhere. But we do know that Daniel eventually breaks up with the other girl and gets back together with Jennifer. They both began to think up ways of making their relationship work, and it became painfully clear that as long as Han and Bick were in the picture, they were going to have to keep hiding their relationship because they felt that Daniel was not an adequate match for Jennifer since he had a mixed racial background and was half Chinese and half Filipino. So, how to get rid of him? Well, the only logical option would be to hire someone to kill them. So Jennifer called an old high school friend of hers named Andrew Montemayor, who she claimed had told everyone stories about how he had robbed people at knife point. He introduced her to Ricardo Duncan, a goth who she actually paid $1,500 to so that he would kill Han while he was in the parking lot of his work. But Ricardo stopped replying to messages and answering her calls, and basically ripped her off. He later said that he had turned her down when she had offered him the money in exchange for him murdering her father. After this failed attempt, Daniel and Jennifer decided to hire someone a little more professional. Daniel introduced her to a man named Lenford Roy Crawford, also known as Homeboy. Homeboy agreed to do the job for $10,000, which Jennifer saw as a reasonable price since she stood to inherit about $500,000 from her parents once they were gone, and she'd have her freedom, which was the most important thing to her. Daniel and her would be able to move in together and she'd be able to do what she wanted to when she wanted to. She agreed to the price and preparations started. Homeboy gave her an iPhone and a SIM card that she could use to call him through. Then he contacted another man named Eric Carty, also known as Sniper. Sniper contacted another person named David Milvaganan. Jennifer and Homeboy remained in contact through text on the iPhone, and they derived a plan to make the murder look like a robbery. On Halloween night, Homeboy drove by the Pan household and neighborhood to check it out and have an idea of what they were dealing with. On November 2nd, Daniel must have had some sort of meltdown or had regrets about all of this because he contacted Jennifer and told her that he was breaking up with her because he was still in love with the other girl that he had met after they first broke up. He told Jennifer that the way she felt for him was the way that he felt for this other girl. He asked Jennifer if she still wanted to go through with the murders, and she said yes. She said, "I want it for me." So I'm not sure what happened between the time of their breakup and the next day, but I found two different articles that stated that by then, Jennifer and Daniel had started to send each other flirty texts again. So I guess that means they were back on, or at least kind of back on. Now on November 8th, 2010, after a few times of trying to come to an agreement on the day and failing, Jennifer receives a text from Homeboy saying, "It happens tonight." At 10:02 p.m., the light in the upstairs study of the Pan household was switched on. At 10:03 p.m., the light went off again. This is thought to have been a sign from Jennifer to Homeboy and the two other hitmen. At that time, Jennifer's mother was actually watching TV downstairs, while her father had already gone upstairs and was asleep in his bed. Her brother Felix was thankfully studying engineering and at the time was not going to come home that night. Now, at 10:05 p.m., Jennifer received a call from Homeboy. They spoke for about 3 minutes and then Jennifer hangs up, quietly goes downstairs, unlocks the front door, then heads back upstairs. Moments later, the 3 men enter the home, each carrying a gun. One of the men went into the living room with Bick, while the other 2 went upstairs to where Han and Jennifer were. As Han was being woken up and dragged down the stairs, Jennifer handed Sniper $2,500 cash and led him to her parents' room, where he took another $1,100 in U.S. funds from the nightstand. Then, she led him downstairs and into the kitchen to find her mother's wallet. I couldn't find any information on how much they were able to get out of that, but once that was done, Sniper led Jennifer to where her parents were and began to demand Han's wallet. Han pulled out $60 from it, handed it to them, and told them that it was all he had. One of the intruders called him a liar and then hit him in the back of the head with the butt of his gun. Bick began to cry, begging them not to do anything to her daughter, and they told her not to worry, that her daughter was nice and they weren't going to hurt her. Sniper then led Jennifer upstairs and tied her to a banister with shoelaces. Once he was back, the 3 men led Bick and Han down the stairs to the basement and covered their heads with blankets and began the execution, shooting Han first, once on the shoulder and once in the face. Bick screamed twice as her husband was shot and then fell to the floor. But before she could do anything else, she was shot 3 times on the back of the head. Believing that they had accomplished what they came here to do, the 3 men quickly left the household. Throughout this whole time, while Han thought that Jennifer had been abiding by the rules and had been only able to use her phone and laptop while supervised, Bick had actually taken pity on her daughter and told her the location where her father would hide them while not in use so that she could sneak peeks at her phone and answer quick texts. So, before the men came into the house, Jennifer had slipped the phone out of this hiding place and had placed it inside of the waistband of her clothing so that she could reach it while tied up. Now, as she heard her mother's screams and the commotion of the men leaving the home, Jennifer twisted her body in a way where she could reach her phone, and she dialed 911. "Help me, please, I need help," she said, feigning panic. "I don't know where my parents are. Some people broke into our house and stole all this money. I could hear my parents yelling. Please, send help." Jennifer had no idea that a few seconds before she dialed 911, probably while she was still trying to fish her phone out of her waistband, Han had regained consciousness, and looking around at all of the blood and his wife's body laying next to him, he was able to muster up the necessary drive to push past his pain and injuries. He got up and began climbing the stairs as quickly as he could as he yelled for help. At around the 34-second mark of Jennifer's 911 call, you can actually hear Han moaning in pain in the background. Jennifer heard him and, in order to keep the ruse up, yelled that she was calling 911, but did nothing to go to her father. Han managed to stagger out of the front door, screaming for help as he did. His neighbor, who had been about to leave for work, saw Han and immediately dialed 911. When the police arrived, they found blood splattered all over the floor of the house and Bick's dead body in the basement. Han was taken to Markham Stouffville Hospital to receive immediate care and then was airlifted to Sunnybrook Hospital in Toronto, where he was placed in a trauma unit and was medically induced into a coma. The cops brought Jennifer in for questioning, where she spun the lie that they had agreed upon. 3 men had somehow gained entry into her home. They had asked for money and had taken it, and had tied her up and shot her parents in the basement. At first, the police believed her and began to look for clues or evidence that corroborated her story. But the more they looked, the more holes they found in it. Like, why didn't they take any other valuables? Or, why did they only shoot her parents but left her unharmed and only tied up? The cops brought Jennifer back in to question her a second time as they tried to fill in the blanks and put together a story that actually made sense. 3 days after the incident, they got a break in the case though. Han had woken up from his coma and shockingly remembered everything that happened. His story sounded a lot like Jennifer's, with 2 big differences. The first was that although Jennifer had told police that she had been led around the house tied up as they searched for the money, Han clearly remembered that she had been untied the whole time. The second was that although she had claimed to not have recognized the intruders, Han remembered seeing her speaking to them calmly, even whispering as if talking to friends. This story made a lot more sense to them, and therefore they brought Jennifer in for questioning a 3rd time. But this time, Jennifer had a taste of her own medicine. The police misled Jennifer by claiming that they had software that could analyze her statements and search for lies, and that in Canada they had satellites that could use infrared technology that could track movements inside of buildings and homes. For my American viewers who are probably confused by that, well, turns out that it's legal in Canada to lie to someone who is being questioned as long as the lies stick to the evidence found and the strategies that they are using. So this was completely legal, and it worked. Jennifer, now frazzled, tried to spin another lie to cover up the first one. Yes, she had known the men. Yes, she had been in contact with them. But not to hurt her poor parents, but to have these men kill her. See, this had actually been a suicide attempt. The men she paid had just misunderstood everything, and that led to this unfortunate predicament. The cops bought none of it, and continued to investigate around the idea that Jennifer had orchestrated her parents' murder. Meanwhile, Jennifer planned out and attended 2 different funerals, one for her mother and one for her mother's father, which is a Vietnamese tradition where older members of the family must have their funerals first. Now on November 19th, Bic was buried. Han could not attend due to his injuries. He had a shattered neck bone, a broken bone near his eye, and he had bullet fragments that had remained lodged in his face because doctors were unable to pull them out. The bullets had also grazed his carotid artery, so his injuries were pretty extensive. After this, they brought Jennifer in for questioning again. This time Jennifer agreed that, yes, she had hired them to kill her parents and herself because she was upset at her father, but the relationship had mended since she had done so, and therefore she had called everything off. She had absolutely nothing to do with this attack. They of course believed none of it and arrested Jennifer. On April 14, 2011, they arrested Milvaganam at the mall in North York. On the 15th, they arrested Sniper, who was being held at the Maplehurst Correctional Complex in Milton. On the 26th, they arrested Daniel at the restaurant that he worked in. And on May 4th, they finally arrested Homeboy in Brampton. On March 19, 2014, the trial for the murder of Bic Pan and attempted murder of Han Pan began. It was a huge 10-month-long trial with more than 50 witnesses. Jennifer herself was on the stand for 7 days. They also had over 200 exhibits filed. All 5 of the suspects pled not guilty to the charges held against them, which were first-degree murder, attempted murder, and conspiracy to commit murder. York Regional Police showed the iPhone given to Jennifer as evidence. along with hundreds of texts sent between Jennifer and the men planning the murder, and with Daniel as they planned out the aftermath. They also highlighted Jennifer's obsession with Daniel, her lies, all of the inconsistencies in her testimonies, and the differences between hers and her father's. They talked about how it made no sense for the three men to shoot and try to kill her parents, and then leave her, a crucial eyewitness, alive, not assaulted or shot, and simply tied up. They also brought to light Jennifer's incredibly strict upbringing and the trauma she had because of it. Both Han and Jennifer's brother Felix wrote victim impact reports. A piece of Han's read, "When I lost my wife, I lost my daughter at the same time. On the day Vic died, I feel I died too." He wrote about the impact that his injuries and trauma had on him, claiming that he could no longer work and couldn't return to the house since everything happened. He also mentioned that he couldn't even sell the house because of how popular the case had become. No one wanted to buy a house where someone was murdered. About Jennifer, he said, "I hope my daughter Jennifer thinks about what happened to her family and can become a good, honest person someday." Jennifer, Daniel, Homeboy, Sniper, and Milvaganat were all found guilty of all charges and were given 2 life sentences each that would be served back to back with no chance of parole for at least 25 years. Sniper's lawyer claimed that he had been ill during the trial, and that led to a mistrial for Sniper. And in December of 2015, Sniper received his new sentence of 18 years with a chance of parole after 9 years, once he pled guilty. But on April 26, 2018, he was stabbed to death in his prison cell. Han and Felix both requested permanent restraining orders against Jennifer, which the judge granted, so she will never be able to come near them or contact them again. The judge also banned her from ever contacting Daniel again. In May of 2023, Jennifer and the 3 men still alive appealed to one of the first-degree murder charges, and there was a new trial where it was ruled that they were incorrectly charged with first-degree murder, without an option of considering other scenarios that could have led to second-degree murder or manslaughter charges. Now, try as I might, I was unable to find any information on whether the prior sentence was reduced or not due to this. Now, as I was searching for more information on Jennifer, I came across an ad that showed there was going to be a documentary on Jennifer made by Netflix, and I definitely am going to be watching that to see if there's any new information on it about the case. That's it for today. Was Jennifer traumatized, flat out crazy, heartless, or maybe just misunderstood? Do you think that her accomplices got what they deserved? Let me know in the comments below. You can also let me know where you're from and if you found me through a bill. You can help my small channel grow by sharing it with others who love crazy, paid a hitman to kill my problems, true crime stories just like we do. And as always, please remember to like if you liked and subscribe if you want more. I'll see you next time.